New Zealand, a land of breathtaking landscapes and rich indigenous culture, was once a key colony of the British Empire. But despite its strategic value and vast resources, the British eventually stepped away, allowing New Zealand to forge its own path. What led the empire to relinquish its control? Was it the fierce Maori resistance, changing global priorities, or internal struggles within the empire itself? When the British first arrived in New Zealand in the early 19th century, they encountered a land inhabited by the Maori, an indigenous people with a complex social structure and a deep connection to their land. European settlers, traders, and missionaries soon followed, bringing with them new opportunities but also tensions. As British influence grew, the Crown saw the need to establish formal governance. This effort culminated in the Treaty of Waitangi in 1840, a document meant to bring unity but instead became a source of lasting conflict. The treaty, signed between the British Crown and various Maori chiefs, was intended to establish British sovereignty while protecting Maori rights. However, differing interpretations of its terms, particularly around land ownership, soon led to disputes and violent confrontations. From the outset, the British faced immense challenges in establishing effective governance over New Zealand. Communication difficulties with London, the lack of adequate military presence, and an underestimation of local complexities all hindered their ability to maintain order. The colony was geographically vast, with rugged terrain that made transportation and administration difficult. The Maori tribes were fiercely independent, with their own established systems of governance that did not align with British colonial models. The British attempted to introduce policies that would facilitate cooperation and development, but these often failed due to cultural misunderstandings and a lack of local engagement. Governor George Grey, one of the key figures in New Zealand's colonial administration, implemented initiatives aimed at integrating Maori into the colonial economy and governance structures. However, these efforts frequently clashed with Maori perspectives on land and sovereignty, further deepening the divide. As British authorities sought to extend their influence, the tensions escalated into full-scale conflict. The New Zealand Wars, 1845 to 1872, became a protracted struggle that highlighted the difficulties in enforcing British rule. The Maori resistance, armed with superior knowledge of the land and innovative fortifications, repeatedly frustrated British military efforts. The ongoing conflict strained British resources both financially and logistically, and forced the Crown to reconsider its long-term strategy for the colony. While the military conflicts raged on, European settlers in New Zealand began pushing for greater autonomy. The British government introduced self-governing institutions, such as the New Zealand Constitution Act of 1852, which established a parliamentary system and gave settlers more control over their internal affairs. Key political figures like Richard Seddon, who served as New Zealand's Prime Minister from 1893 to 1906, championed policies that sought to assert local control while maintaining ties with Britain. As New Zealand developed its own economic infrastructure based primarily on agriculture and trade, it became increasingly clear that the colony was capable of standing on its own. The growing sense of national identity among settlers, combined with Maori resistance and Britain's shifting global priorities, led to the colony transitioning into a dominion in 1907. This new status granted New Zealand greater autonomy while still recognizing the British monarch as the head of state. Before we continue with the video and my further explanation about the factors that shaped New Zealand's independence, I want to ask for your help. I'm trying to reach 350 subscribers, so I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and help me out. Okay, let's continue. Despite gaining Dominion status in 1907, full independence was a gradual process. The outbreak of World War I and later World War II reinforced New Zealand's loyalty to the British Crown, but it also highlighted the need for self-reliance. The Statute of Westminster Adoption Act of 1947 was a key moment, officially granting New Zealand the ability to pass its own laws without British interference. This legislative milestone underscored the colony's evolution into a fully self-governing entity. However, it wasn't until the Constitution Act of 1986 that New Zealand legally severed all remaining ties to the British Parliament, confirming the complete independence of its government. With this, New Zealand cemented its position as an independent nation, with its own identity, laws, and global ambitions. Maori leaders continued to advocate for their rights and cultural recognition throughout this period, with significant developments such as the establishment of the Waitangi Tribunal in 1975, which aimed to address long-standing grievances related to land confiscations and treaty breaches. Britain's departure from New Zealand was not a sudden decision, but rather a calculated transition influenced by economic, political, and global factors. The immense costs of maintaining a colonial presence across the world, particularly in the aftermath of two world wars, prompted Britain to prioritize its resources elsewhere. New Zealand's economic growth, driven by its thriving agricultural exports, allowed it to function with increasing independence, reducing the need for British intervention. Political evolution within New Zealand further accelerated this process. The settlers, eager to shape their own destiny, increasingly demanded self-rule. British policymakers recognized that resisting this shift would be impractical and counterproductive, leading to a gradual transfer of governance responsibilities. Globally, the mid-20th century saw a wave of decolonization as former colonies across Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean pursued sovereignty. Britain, understanding that the era of colonial rule was ending, supported New Zealand's peaceful and organized transition to independence. Despite the official constitutional severance in 1986, cultural and economic ties between the two nations remained strong. The shared history, mutual respect, and continued cooperation in areas such as trade and defense ensure that the relationship endures, albeit on equal footing. New Zealand's path from a British colony to an independent nation was shaped by a complex interplay of military conflict, political evolution, and economic development. From the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi to the final constitutional break in 1986, the journey was marked by challenges, compromises, and resilience. Today, New Zealand maintains strong cultural and historical ties to Britain, but it stands as a fully independent country with a distinct national identity. The legacy of British rule remains a topic of discussion, particularly regarding the ongoing impact on Maori communities and their pursuit of justice. What do you think was the most significant factor in Britain's decision to give up control of New Zealand? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below, and let's discuss. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more deep dives into fascinating historical topics. Thank you for watching, and I truly appreciate your support.